Hey everybody. So you've acquired an old rusty barbecue smoker, or maybe you've bought it from a garage sale and you have it sitting around the house, but it's really rusty and it's kind of ugly and it doesn't smoke very well and it doesn't hold the heat and it cooks unevenly and it's kind of a pain. Well, I might have a solution for that. Today we're going to talk about how you can customize an old smoker to make it look good, smoke good, and last a long time. So stick around and I'm going to share some of the tips and tricks that I did on this smoker here on Coach's Barbecue. So first let's talk about some of the things that I did when I acquired this. So this is a char grill smoker. They're normally about $199. I got this from a guy up the road for $25, and it was totally rusted and the boards were rotted and all kinds of things. So some of the things that I did to it were the surface. I added or took care of the surface and made it better. I added a couple temperature gauges onto it. I replaced the wood on it. I replaced the handles, made custom handles, put new grill inside, or new grid inside I should say, and I put a flow control, custom flow control inside to help regulate the heat and keep the smoke even. So let's talk a little bit about that. So on the surface, the first thing I did is I just basically sanded it down. Okay, so you can use by hand, depending on how much rust there is. You can do it by hand, or you can use an orbital sander like a Ryobi one, or they do make a really great, if you got a lot of heavy rust on it, they make an angle grinder. There's a small angle grinder. It's normally a 4.5-inch angle grinder. You can get it at Home Depot or Harbor Freight or wherever you prefer, but they make a sanding discs for that, and that does a really great job of knocking off any rust that you might have. So once you've finished sanding the surface down and you feel like you've got most of the rust down, you know, the other thing too is some of these are old, that they're going to be pitted. They're going to have some rust pits. So it's a balance that you want to find. You don't want to sand it too much because you don't want to thin out the metal. You want to keep the metal as thick as you can keep it, but you want to knock off much of the rust. Now, rust will rust to a point, and then it will stop. It won't rust anymore. So don't feel like you need to get every speck of rust off of your smoker. It'll still be okay. All right. So, but once you have it to that point where you think you've got it good or satisfied to enough, then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use a high heat paint. Okay, now there's a couple different ones out on the market that are easy to use. You can get it at Walmart, you can get it at Home Depot. This is Rust-Oleum's high heat. Krylon makes one as well. Doesn't really matter, but you want a high heat paint. Okay, don't get the automotive. There is an automotive one, but I wouldn't recommend the automotive one. The reason being is the automotive one, it has to cure. You have to take it up to 200 degrees for 30 minutes, and then you have to cool it for 30 minutes. Then take it to 400 degrees, and then cool it for 30 minutes. And then on up to 600 degrees for 30 minutes. Hold the heat, and then cool it. So it's really not very practical for a smoker. This is going to be just fine. So just make sure you don't get the auto paint. It can stand higher heat, but we're not really going that high with a smoker, okay? So you spray that on the surface. Now, one thing I want to show you on the surface here, I had this completely rust-free, great. I probably had 6-7 coats of paint on this, but you might be able to notice that there's still a little bit of rusting coming out. This was cooked one time, and once you cook it once and then it rains because it sits outside, it's still going to get a little bit of rust, but it gives a nice patina, and it's not gonna go much further than that. Okay, so that's our surface. Once we get that taken care of, so let's talk about a couple other things. Let's go inside and take a look. So this is the firebox. You know, you have a firebox and you have your smoke chamber. So in the firebox, what I did is I cut a new grid down here. I used this on the inside of the for instead of making a fire basket, I just put another piece of expanded steel in here. Now this expanded steel is a number 9 expanded steel. Okay, and I use that same steel on the inside here. I'll go ahead and open this up. I use that same steel on the inside here. Just cut it to shape, measured it, cut it to shape, and put it inside. Now, the one thing I want to note to you on the expanded steel here is this is a flat expanded steel, okay, which means that they roll it again. They roll it again through the rollers, and it flattens out all the sharp edges on the metal, so it won't cut your hand, it won't tear up your meat. If you get just the regular expanded, you're going to have lots of sharp edges, so when you put meat on here, it's going to cut into the meat, and you really don't want that. So you want to get a flat number 9. It's been rolled again, okay? So we've got the firebox area. We put the new grate on the bottom. I put do that same grate inside here. One of the things I want to show you too is I also put custom handles on this. Now, handles fall off all the time. I mean, that's one of the things that really breaks and comes off. They hit the weather all the time and they come off. So, you know, you can do whatever you want as far as handles. You can go buy new ones. What I did is you can probably tell, I got tons of trees around here and lots of cedars around here. So what I did was I just found some cedar branches that I thought were appropriate size, and I shaved them off and just basically mounted them here. Now, once I mounted them, sanded off the edges, rounded them out, and shaved them to the way you think they look nice. I also replaced this piece of cedar here. This was just regular pine. I put a nice thick piece of cedar that I had on here, planking that works really well. Put that on there, any kind of wood that you want. But what I would recommend is once you're done, you want to seal that with linseed oil. Now this is a boiled linseed oil. It's pretty inexpensive. Once again, all these things you can get at Home Depot. That's where I got them. If you take that and just take a rag and just rub it in really good, it's going to weatherize this and seal it. And doesn't really matter for the handles, but possibly for this as well. It's food safe, so it's not going to hurt you to put that. So once again, linseed oil, put it on the wood, takes care of it. You know, you can also put it on metal too if you wanted to, but we don't really have an application for that. The other thing I did on the outside before we go inside is I put new gauges on it. This didn't have a gauge, and even when it does come with a gauge, that gauge is normally placed right here. I don't know if you can see this little button right here. This is a button that covers up the hole that they drilled for. It's an option you can get to put a gauge there. Well, the problem with that is your meat is not up here. Your meat doesn't live up here. Your meat is on the grid that's down at the bottom. So it's important that you get your temperature gauges at the level that the meat is, not at the top. You're going to get false readings. It's going to read it a lot hotter up here than it is down there. And believe me, the temperature shifts that you can get just in a matter of inches is amazing. You can get sometimes a 20 to 30 degree shift just from here to here. So it's important to keep your gauges as close to where the meat is going to be as you possibly can. So once I put those gauges on, well, let me back up. The way you put those gauges on is I drilled through them. These gauges happen to have it's a 3/4 inch fitting that goes on there. So I had to get a 3/4 inch drill bit, $22 drill bit. So you get a high-speed metal drill bit. Don't use a wood; it won't work on it. They're expensive. But anyway, I drilled these 2 holes, threaded it through, screwed it down. But you might notice some coloration on those. You might see some coloration on those gauges. Well, what that is, that coloration is a sealant that we put in here. And that is a gasket maker. Let me show you what that is. So this is what we use for that. This is a red RTV gasket maker. I don't remember how much this cost. I think it was like $3 or $4. Once again, I got it at Home Depot. It was not a problem. You put it on here, you let it cure 24 hours, and it tighten. You screw it down and tighten it up. That seals any holes. What's great about this gasket maker, if you are getting a lot of leaks, like from your lid area or the smoke box area, you can put a bead of this along the edge and it will help seal that up. If you have any holes, exterior holes or anything, you can put some of that on there and it'll help seal that. And it's rated to handle that heat because it's, it's a high temp gasket maker. So pick some of that up, and that seals up really well. So let's talk about the special part, the customized that I did on the inside. Come on in, let me show you. So first of all, what I want to talk about is the smoke chamber. So mostly these smokers, the exiting exhaust is at the top of the smoker, and we talked about that earlier. The problem with that is when your smoke exits and enters into the smoke chamber, when it exits the firebox and comes into the smoke chamber, it's going to go to the top. And when it goes to the top, then it's going to roll across and it's going to exit right out the top of the tube. So you're not really getting an effective smoke and heat onto your meat or whatever it is that you're smoking. So one solution is all this simply is dryer vent. I don't know if you can see that from that angle, but this is just dryer vent, flexible dryer vent. I think it was like $8, $9, and I just cut a piece of it and I attached it here, and I bring it all the way down to the surface of the grill. What that does is that forces the smoke to fill up and at least get to below the level of the meat before it can exit the chamber. So that ensures that you're getting an even smoke around the meat product or whatever it is, once again, that you're smoking. So that's one thing that's very simple to do, and you can do with any smoker, is put a little dryer vent on there. So let's get to my little secret down here that I did, okay? So if you'll come on in, let me show you this a little closely. You might see kind of a contraption down in here. Let me see if I can lift and get some of this out of here so you can get a better look at this. All right, so what we have here is basically, this is steel. It's a galvanized steel. This is your dryer vent. You might recognize that from like normally it's on a roofing, and it comes out this tube. This is a number 4, which means it's a 4-inch tube with a cap. Again, all this you can get at Home Depot. This is a 24-inch. I bought a 24-inch, 4-inch diameter tube with a 4-inch cap, and then I bought a 4-inch. I forgot the name of it. I call it just a fluted top. Okay, so you can see the original hole for this smoker is pretty big, so it allows a lot of smoke to come out. But again, there's nothing that forces it to get onto this side. So again, all your smoke comes here and then rolls over. So this consequently is a very, very hot area, and this can be a cold area. So what I do is I've installed, come around this side, let me show you. I've installed that kind of a fluted side in through here with this flashing. I had to custom cut it and put it in there, okay? And then you slide the tubing through it. And then I cut holes in the side on opposing sides. I've got holes on the back and on the front. And what that's doing is that's forcing the smoke to travel underneath the meat and then release and come out. And so what it effectively does for me is it effectively gives me an even smoke across the entire area, and thus also evens out my temperature from here to there. So you get a more even quality smoke. So that's kind of my little secrets that I did to customize this, and it wasn't a lot. So I think I said earlier, this cost me $25. The whole thing was $25. Took about a day just to do the customizations. I had the steel already from my larger smoker that you might see behind me. So I had some scrap left over, $8 or $9 total. If I run it all up with the gauges, are probably the most expensive thing. Everything here was probably $60, $70 for everything. So with a little elbow work and a little bit of dollars, not a whole lot, you can really customize your smoker and make it look really good and really improve the quality of the smoking that you can do. So thanks again for coming and watching this video. I really appreciate that a lot. Hopefully it encourages you and gives you some great ideas how you can customize your smoker. I want to remind you, please, if you can, give me a like if you like the video. If you don't, then don't like it. Also, if you have any comments or if you have a question, please leave it down below, and I'll be sure to try to answer it as best I can. A lot of times people ask me questions because I forget certain details, and you know, I'll answer the question as best as I can. But I want to encourage you, most of all, get out there and do it yourself. Get out there and just try it and have fun with it. It's great to build things with your own hands, and then to cook the food that you made and share it with your friends and share it with your family. That's a great feeling. So once again, I appreciate it very much. You guys have a great day, and remember, keep smoking that sweet meat.